All right, what's going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. I'm trying to find the right screen here as we are live on the air. I probably should find it. There it is. Thank you, everybody, for joining, for watching, for listening. However you consume this, I appreciate you guys very much. A different vibe, a different live vibe going on. We are live from Cheektowaga Country Club, 4917 Genesee Street in Cheektowaga, minutes away from the airport. I am joined by my special guest / regular. Listen, I can't go to a new spot and not have Matt Parrino on with me, man. What's up? How you doing?
I'm great, man. Like the vibes in here you mentioned, it's different. We're sitting on a pink couch right now.
Retro.
There's this retro motif. There's an Elvis lamp right there. The other cool thing is they're playing, we got a disco ball. Amazing.
Disco ball going
they're playing like Halloween music, dude. Like I'm about that life too. It's the season. My kids, they love all the Halloween music playing in the car. So the vibes in here are great. And the golf, we just did the mini golf. This guy with 3 holes in one. Yeah. And so we walk in here tonight and you're like, yes, the first time I'm here. Yeah, right. You probably had 3 or 4 practice rounds in the last week. You've probably gotten in.
No. There's a golf course. We'll get into some of the things that this place has here. Let's just get this right off the bat. This place is really cool. I feel like for somebody our age, I'm older than you, but I'm maybe a generation older than you. You know, I'm a late 70s into the 80s when I was a kid. You're more late 80s into the 90s. But I still feel like one thing people our age have in common is we all grew up to some extent with video games, and arcades and putt-putt, which is still a thing, I guess. I don't see much of it anymore, but some of the pinball machines, there's so much in here that reminds me of growing up, and I'm a very nostalgic type of dude. There's a lot of fun stuff here, but let's get this right off the bat right away here. This feels different to me. Both of us, you're a veteran of doing my show, right. So you've been with me many times at Sunny Reds and Imperial, Casey's, Autobahn. We've lots of places that you and I have been to, and you do your own live show all the time with Ryan at Wing Nuts, and you go to other spots too. You hit the road. In fact, we're going to talk about you being in Atlanta in just a few minutes. This is different than any live show I've ever done. In a cool way. Don't get me wrong. I'm not criticizing. It's just really different right now. Usually there's loud music going on. There's a lot. This is a very chilly vibe type of thing that we got going on right now.
Yeah, for sure. And I also feel like with golf going on in the background here, you got to be careful. You don't want to be talking to people's backswing and getting them all off of their thing. There's a couple holes out here that are super cool where there's one that was set up. It's got a Star Wars character. I think it's R2-D2
the robot.
On a what are those things? The Roombas. Yeah. It's going around the hole, and you got to kind of navigate that as you go through the hole. A lot of fun, creative ideas with how they built this thing. So yeah, it's definitely a different vibe. But man, I love it. It's a great spot.
18 holes here too. I thought this was like a 9-hole little thing that you play twice. Some holes that were just ridiculous though. Like how the hell are you supposed to hit a ball through some of these things? There's like,
well, the degree of difficulty is high. I was just telling the owner, there's a couple spots around town that I've been in that do the golf, the mini golf, and it feels like you're going like hole to hole. It's really easy. This one, it's like, hey, if you don't hit a precise shot, you're going to spend 5 shots just trying to get through the maze that's been created. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, if we were playing match play, like you won holes. I was more spectacular when I was good.
Bye, honey.
Who's?
So,
bye,
Caitlin. By the way, I got her in here and she saw the Simpsons video game. They have a bunch of retro cool video games. She spent at least 5 or 10 minutes over there, and she got the character, of course, that I hated when I was a kid, but it feels like it's just fitting. Is Marge with the vacuum cleaner? That's kind of like her weapon. So she was crushing over there with the Simpsons throwback game, so it was pretty fun.
By the way, food was pretty good here, too, man. I just had a roast beef panini, really cool. They got hay burners for you.
Yes.
That's like a Matt Parrino tradition when we do a show.
Yeah.
To get you a hay burner.
We got to hit a hay burner. Look at that.
Bush Light Apple.
The guy's taking care of you, man. Like
man,
that. He's speaking your language.
Got to respect that. Yeah, but like I said, there's a lot to love here, man. It's the year 2025. We're sitting on a pink retro couch and I can see Pac-Man, the video game, behind us. So really cool spot. If you haven't been here before, this is a great place to go check out. Whether you're going on a little dinner date, you want to bring the kids. You got a little group outing. This is a really cool, vibey spot. So make sure you go check it out. 4917 Genesee Street. Your spot is just down the road, too, by the way. Wingnuts, I noticed that. Like a half mile just down the road here.
Happening part of town.
It is. Cheektowaga is a happening part of town. I don't think so, buddy. This place is awesome. Wingnuts is awesome, but that's as far as I'm going to go with Cheektowaga.
I spend a lot of time here. I fly in and out of the airport a lot. I go to do my shows at Wingnuts, so I'm often driving the streets of Cheektowaga.
We're gonna get to some Bills talk here in just a second. I kind of got a list of issues that this team has going on right now, and I want to run them by you and kind of we'll set up a little bit of a worry meter, like between 1 and 10. Where do you evaluate these positions or these players in terms of should we be worried, or is it just a little slump? And we've seen a couple of these in recent years. The Bills are 4-2 for the fourth time in the last 5 years, I believe. So we'll get to that in just a second. Before that, though, just this past week, Atlanta. Before we talk about the game or anything like that, you guys did a live show there, and it was really, really cool, man. And just talk about that a little bit. I've been to Atlanta before, and I've went through a few times when I would go back and forth driving from Florida back to Buffalo. I'm not a big fan of Atlanta. The traffic's terrible.
Yeah, the traffic's
There's other
rough.
issues in Atlanta too, but there's also some nice spots. And you guys did a live show there the night before the game. That shit was off the hook, man. It was a good guess, and you could hear, like, even at busy bars a lot of times. Like if you're doing something at Wingnuts or I'm doing something at Sunny Reds, there's a lot of people there, but you don't necessarily hear it on the broadcast.
Right.
You could hear it on the broadcast.
Yeah.
Like those fans were pumped in Atlanta.
I put out a video on for the show that we did for BKL in the morning where people came out. There were so many Bills fans there. People came out for the morning show. They started drinking at 11 o'clock in the morning.
I love it.
And having a party, and like the vibes in there. I think two things were at play. Number one, a ton of people circled this as one of the big trips, big away games to go to. The other part of it is there's a ton of transplants that live in Atlanta. So if you're thinking about when you're walking around downtown and you're going to all these different places, there's Bills jerseys everywhere. I was staying at, I can't remember the name of the street, but there was this really good breakfast restaurant next door that I ended up going on the last day before I left, and it was amazing. The Atlanta Breakfast Club, if you ever get there, it's like a Southern style breakfast joint off the chain. It was just really good. But it was right next to my hotel, so every time I was leaving my hotel, I'd have to walk out and I'd see the parking lot. First of all, it was always busy. There was people waiting, sitting on cars in the parking lot to get into this place. But throughout the weekend, it was all Bills jerseys, like all the time, like everywhere you looked. The live event was absolutely incredible. We had, Del Reed was out, Pinto Ron was out at the show, and he was great. And he actually had the stat of the weekend that over the last 4 seasons, the Bills have always lost consecutive games, and that's what had him so much worried about the Falcons game. And then they go out and they lose that game.
It was him who said
Pinto
that.
Ron.
Chris Brown was there. Yeah,
Chris Brown was there. Yep. It was a great show. I will tell you an embarrassing story, though. So,
go ahead.
On the road, depending on the in-house audio situation, like if we do a live show, I got to try to figure out a way to get a speaker so at least some people can hear the podcast.
Right.
And so I went to Guitar Center. I rented a speaker, got it to the thing. It was fine. I'm lugging this 60 to 70 pound speaker around Atlanta in Ubers. It was rough, right? And so I think I just got, by the time I was taking that thing out of there, I was carrying this around so much. Ryan did a couple of stints, but I did most of the heavy lifting, let's be honest. And I'm taking this speaker down the stairs, and it's really dark in this place. Like, it's a bar. Last stair, bite it, fall face first down the stairs, landed on my knee. I thought I broke my kneecap for a second there, and it's still kind of rough. I couldn't play basketball yesterday, but I think only 3 people saw it, but they had so many drinks, they completely didn't even pay attention to the fact that I just fell on my face. So I appreciate that. So if you're watching this, or if you hear that, thank you for not making that a complete
Is that
spectacle.
why just before this show started, you were rooting for me to fall behind?
I thought that would have been entertaining.
When we were setting up the camera, I almost fell, and it was like you were kind of cheering me on to fall.
I wasn't cheering you on. I would have tried to save you. I would have failed, but I would have tried.
I was wondering about that, lugging stuff around when you go on the road, to do a show. You don't do a show every time on the road.
Right.
When you can, you do. What was Atlanta like in terms of the fan base, the amount of Bills fans compared to others? I will say on the TV broadcast, it certainly felt noticeable. Sometimes you hear about, Bills Mafia takeovers, and they represent well. They always do, of course, but you don't always hear it on the TV broadcast. But it felt like Buffalo was very well.
To me, there's like two places over my 8 years that just absolutely blew me away. Number one, no matter what, Nashville. Like Nashville is, it just turns into Buffalo. It's like downtown Buffalo on Broadway. Like when that's happened, or no, not Broadway. What is the street? Is it Broadway in Nashville? No, what's the party street?
Do you know? I don't.
Shoot,
I don't
what
know.
is the party street? It's not Broadway. Oh my gosh, it's gonna
haunt you the rest of the show.
I'll Google it. I'll figure it out. But there's rooftop bars down there where you're like 3 or 4 stories up, and you're looking down. And I'll never forget. I think it was 19, the year that they had a road game there, and it was all Bills jerseys. Even in 19, it was all Josh Allen jerseys. That blew me away. I remember going to I was going to a place with Sal Capaccio, and we were walking up to the bar, and people were lined up the stairs. People saw us walking up, and everybody. It was a point in the night where people had their drinks, and I'm not kidding. A Sal Capaccio jingle started running from the third floor. From the third floor, like they were singing his jingle. It was crazy. And then the other one is Dallas. I was shocked on Thanksgiving, walking around downtown Dallas.
Wow.
Dude, there were so many Bills fans. I don't know if people were like, I just want to kind of get out of Thanksgiving dinner or hosting that year, but that was very close in terms of how many Bills jerseys I saw.
Miami probably obviously represents well too.
And that's always centrally located at that in Fort Lauderdale, some of the party areas.
Sure.
But yeah, that's a big one too.
In terms of the game itself, so fans show up, they show out there, they're loud, and the Bills really didn't do a lot to give them much to cheer for, especially in that first half.
Oh no, it is Broadway.
I don't want to ask you. It is Broadway.
Yeah, I was right.
In Nashville. See, I was thinking if you say Broadway in Philly, it was the first thing that pops in my mind.
Right.
That's why I was getting a brain freeze there. I don't want to ask you how frustrated you were because you're there covering the game. How surprised were you that the Bills played as poorly as they did? Defensive, it felt like, and I've heard this from other people, so I'm not the first one to say it. It almost felt like the Bills lost twice in one game. Like the first half, the defense was so bad that it felt like a loss right there. And then in the second half, when the defense gives the Bills chance after chance, the offense was terrible, and that felt like a loss. It almost felt like 2 L's in one night. From a Bills fan perspective, how surprised were you to see that?
Well, I just remember sitting there at the end of the second quarter thinking, as Drake London is about to score that touchdown that would have got it to 28 points, I was thinking, could Bobby Babbage get fired after this game? I even tweeted something about that. He might be coaching for his job in the second half. That was about one of the worst performances in a half that I've seen on either side of the ball in Sean McDermott's entire tenure here. But the fact that we came out of that game, and I feel like the conversation's been more about Joe Brady and this offense, tells you how concerning things are. Now, I want to dial things back a little bit because I think we're discussing the importance of Dalton Kincaid to this passing game.
Yes.
And that's something that I think we have to, they did their adjustments. I thought that they were getting Joshua Palmer involved. That was the other piece of it. All right, you pivot. Your passing game's looking good in that first drive. Palmer's eating. He makes a big play on that third down when he gets injured, and then he's out of the game, and I just felt like you're looking around that room, and it's like, who's going to step up? As good as Khalil Shakir is, he's never going to be the guy that's, taking over a game, 12, 13 targets or something like that. The guy that really needed to take over in that game was Keon Coleman, and it feels like he's incapable of that at this point of his career. Now, I know that he wants all of us to say less, but I think a lot of Bills fans want him to do more in those kinds of spots. And to Sean's point, when he talked about it this week, he had his opportunities. I think what we saw in Atlanta was that Dalton Kincaid is as irreplaceable a piece of this offense as there is. I mean, it's him and James Cook at the top of the food chain in this whole everyone eats thing. And I also think that, like, Joe Brady's got to, he doesn't have to get away from the everybody eats mantra, but he has to understand that there is a food chain, and some of these guys at the top of the food chain, they need to eat before everybody else.
Sure.
So that's Dalton Kincaid, that's James Cook. And it's like, how can we go from the narrative that came out of that Kansas City playoff game last year, where James Cook was invisible after he made the touchdown that kept the Bills in the game? They completely forgot he was on the roster.
Yeah.
This is now becoming a pattern for Joe Brady. And to me, if I'm Sean McDermott, I'm saying, listen, we don't want to run this guy into the ground, but when it is gotta have it, gotta make plays, time in the game, James Cook has to be involved. And I don't know why it's so hard for them to envision roles for guys that's outside of the box that Joe tries to put them in. Like, to me, you can have Ty Johnson out there as the third down back, but James Cook in that game with Kincaid and Palmer out, putting him at receiver makes him your best or second best receiver in that game. Do that.
Ty Johnson has 2 catches this year, this season. Huh? And I know he's not Cook and Kincaid, but there's other factors too as well. Going back to what you said with Shakir, because I agree with you fully. That felt, in fact, I said in the first quarter, I tweeted it, this feels like a 12, 13 target kind of game for Khalil Shakir. Then I look in the third quarter, and he had like 3 or 4 targets. They get away from stuff like that. And I remember going back to last year, it wasn't the most creative offense. It was like, stop us if you can, and most teams couldn't do it just because the Bills have a better offensive line, better quarterback, and a better running back. And then they get to Kansas City, and Kansas City at times did stop it. And I remember after the game, Greg Rousseau talking about on both sides of the ball, they did things that the Bills weren't prepared for, where the Chiefs felt like everything the Bills did, they were prepared for. I kind of felt that was the case a little bit here in Atlanta. It's like the offense didn't do anything that Atlanta wasn't waiting on. And to your point about Bobby Babich, and I agree with you, it's all Joe Brady, Joe Brady, Joe Brady. That first half, how does Drake London roaming around a weak zone between 2 linebackers who are not very good in pass coverage and 2 safeties who are even worse in pass coverage in his zone? I mean, he had 147 yards. They were 147 of the easiest yards you can get in a half, by the way, not a full game. It's frustrating as a fan. And speaking of, this is what I wanted to ask you too. Are you also a little bit surprised? I mean, you at least are on Twitter enough to kind of, feel the pulse of the fans throughout the week. And it is really, really doomy. It's doom and gloom right now with a lot of fans. I mean, they're 4-2. Are you more of they're in a lot of trouble right now? Or are you more of, listen, for the last 5 years, they've been 4-2. They lost 2 in a row last year. I know circumstances are a little bit different each time. But do you feel like right now people are overreacting to the struggles of the Bills? And we'll talk about specifics in a minute, but just generally speaking, do you feel like people are overreacting this week? Or are you like, well, this team is supposed to be the Super Bowl favorite, and they haven't really looked like that all season, to be honest with you?
So where I think that there's a slight overreaction is, like, you got to use some context into why this performance happened. Mm-hmm. Jeff Albrick, the defensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons, was in New York for many seasons. Yeah. And if you think about some of the really stinker games of Josh Allen's career over the last 5 years, it's been against the Jets when he was calling the defense. And I think he had 2 weeks coming off their bye to prepare for this Bills offense, which I thought the Patriots did a lot of good things. So he was able to bake that into the game plan a little bit. And they did. The way that they were blitzing them, they found something that now the Bills are going to have to adjust off of, which why I think people are overreacting is because I think that they have the people to adjust to that, right? Like, I remember a couple years ago, I can't remember what it was, the Bills had kind of gone on a bad spot, and I think teams were, I got to go back and do the research on this, so I'm kind of speaking out of turn here. It's the bye week. I'm kind of like downshifting a little bit. But some of the things I want to look at is like, when teams have really had an uptick in blitz percentage over the years, how have the Bills responded to that? And I think one of the ways, we just talked about it, to respond to it is, okay, Ty Johnson's your better pass blocker in the backfield. You can't take James Cook off the field in those situations. You just got to find a different way to use him. And Joe Brady was either unwilling to do that, or at times, if you went back and watched the film, I believe, I saw you tweet about it, there was a couple times where I thought Josh Allen just decided not to throw it to James Cook coming out of the backfield.
Handful of times.
Yeah, had he maybe tried a couple of those, maybe that would have put in the defense on their heels a little bit.
Yeah.
They just weren't able to connect on any of that. I also think they were reeling without their two top weapons in the passing game, without Palmer and Kincaid. I think that finding an adjustment to that was something that I thought they weren't able to do.
And Samuel, too, by the way. I thought Samuel the week before. I know you can, and that's the problem with him. You can't trust him. But was the New England game, when you go back and you watch it, he was open on a few plays where Josh either didn't see him or decided to go somewhere else. One of them could have been a touchdown had he saw him earlier, and it was a pretty it's like a skinny post. Anyway, but I almost feel embarrassed saying Curtis Samuel. But my point is, blitz beaters, guys who can get off,
right,
who can separate quick. He is one of them. You can't count on him though,
right?
And that's the problem. But I don't know. I mean, you're speaking on it, and you're right. It's just, they're blitzing. Well, what are you doing about it? He's still looking 15, 20 yards down the field. You ain't got time to throw the football. Why is James Cook not slipping out the backfield? Why is Ty Johnson not slipping out of the backfield? Or running quick little wheel routes or little hitches to Shakir. Now, I know Kincaid didn't play, and that's where you're right the most. Him being out, I'm starting to realize how important he is. Now, statistically, before this game, because he didn't play, he was second in the NFL in tight ends amongst receiving yards.
Right.
I'm like, well, that's great. Whatever stats. He had a 100-yard game. I could see why. But now I'm starting to really understand his importance. And I also think that's one of the guys that Josh Allen truly trusts. And I think he had some trust issues with some of the guys that were on the field.
I think Palmer was developing some trust. I mean, he made a couple of big plays.
Once he went down.
By the way,
once he went down,
if you go back to that 46-yard play to open the game for their offense, that's a touchdown if Josh Allen throws that in the right spot.
Yeah.
There was separation there, and I thought Palmer had to slow down to wait for that ball. If he throws it to the middle of the field deeper, he walks in for a touchdown. And that's what I mean. Now, at the same time, there's two throws in that game that were just Josh special throws. The one to Dawson Knox for the touchdown on 3rd and 13. Situationally, he is so elite at the way he can just rip some of these throws. The one to Shakir, if he gets his one foot in, those are special plays.
Tough play, but Shakir should make that play.
You'd like him to make it. It's a tough play. Yeah, sure. But whatever the case may be, we talked about it on our show. I don't know if you're planning to get to this, but I'm worried about the depth of this receiver room. We're talking about, you mentioned social media. It's off the rails so much that I feel like Gabe Davis is now being bolstered as this savior that I think he can add an element to this offense. I think that there's a role for him. I would actually even argue right now, I think you should consider when he's healthy giving him the Tyrell Shavers role. To me, that is that's perfect for Gabe Davis, that is right? You could ask him to be wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5, whatever the distinction is. He's going to block for you. They're letting Shavers block. I would imagine Gabe is a better blocker than Shavers, and I just think that Josh would probably trust him a little bit more on some of these throws that he's given to Shavers, and it's not necessarily a knock on Shavers. He's been all right. It's just I don't know.
I like him.
There's a ceiling there that I've seen through 6 weeks.
Going back to the summer, and we are going to get to the receivers actually in a minute, and I'm going to include Tyrell Shavers in this. Do you notice? I'm noticing a trend. All right, so Joe from Queens is maybe one of the most annoying people in the world, and we both know.
Dude, leave Joe alone.
All right, well,
just because he calls you out on your pandering bullshit,
he does, and he's mostly right about that stuff, but he's mostly wrong about everything else. Well,
you were pandering today. I saw a tweet from you.
Was I?
Yeah.
Who was I pandering to?
The best piece of content I've seen all year.
We'll interrupt this.
Speaking of which, I didn't watch it yet, but I cannot wait to watch it.
I want you to watch it.
It looked like a really cool thing.
I love Jeddah Cottrell. I'm talking about Buffalo Plus.
I love all them.
And they're one of 3 or 4 podcasts that I'll listen to all the time. But they did a hot ones, with the wings. And about halfway through if you want to hear just typical Bills talk, honestly, but you don't want to see the whole thing, you only want the good stuff, fast forward through the first half. But once the wings started to get into the hot, Mike Catalana's starting to have trouble talking, and Jenna's facial reactions. I could have made 20. I did make 3 screenshots. I sent them to her.
What do they have? What do they have to take? What do they have to take the heat off?
Milk.
Just milk?
She poured milk into a glass a second time, but she was in tears at one point. Or just her facial reactions were absolutely priceless.
Respect doing that on camera.
The Bills talk was fine. It's fine, but it was the wing stuff and the reactions to them. that just made that elite.
That's funny.
Anyway, Joe and I fight every summer that he hates training camp and it never means anything. And that's what he says. It always amounts to nothing at the end of the day. I want to say he's wrong a lot more than he is, but I'm starting to realize a lot of things that you and I see or everyone sees at camp don't really always pan out that way. Tyrell Shavers looked like he was going to be a 1,000-yard receiver at camp. He's just another guy. I'm happy for him. It's a good story. I'm happy he made the team. He earned his way onto the team. But, I mean, he's another receiver on this football team right now. Matt Milano looked like the best player on either. I remember Bobby Babbage saying, I think he was the best player in camp on either side of the field. And I agreed with that. Regular season, now he's been hurt twice, but he was pretty good early on before he got hurt, but nothing special. Dorian Strong, a guy that you and I were not as high on as a lot of other people, it turns out that he was progressing at least towards the end of camp now. And now he looks, well, he's hurt though, but you know what I mean? A lot of things that you see at camp don't really pan out. But the one I was getting to and kind of leaning to the receivers was Keon Coleman. My jaw would drop every day at camp that I was there.
Right.
I'm like, this dude's just making play after play after play, outside, boundary catches, deep routes, taking, 50-50 balls, and he just looked incredible. So kind of getting to the Bills' worry meter, like if it's between 1 and 10, you look at the receivers, which I want to talk about now. What's your level of worry when it comes to the receivers as a whole? And then we'll talk about a few specific examples. Is it something right now, as things stand, if Brandon Beane doesn't do anything, which I got a good question for you with that too, if nothing changes, where's your worry meter? Can this offense get it together with this receiving group?
So I'm going to put it at a 5 out of 10.
Okay.
That my worry meter, I would say, is somewhere in the middle. Because I do have concerns. It's why I argued on our show yesterday that the Bills should really consider trading for one of the New Orleans receivers.
Yes.
And if it's not the New Orleans, I'm not as high on the Calvin Ridley thing. I don't think he can stay healthy at almost 31 years old. I'm worried about that. The Jalen Waddle thing, I just don't see. I agree with Marcel. I just don't see a path to Miami doing that.
Not to Buffalo.
Even if the Bills were to give a first-round pick, which, by the way, F them picks at this point.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't care about a first-round pick. If you can get a first-round caliber wide receiver in here, give up a first-round pick.
Yes.
Like, to me, and I argued for this on the show yesterday, and not to repeat my talking point, but I think it's an important one. One of the best moves that Brandon Beane, outside of drafting Josh Allen, was trading for Stephon Diggs. And he was a bona fide number one wide receiver.
Yes.
I get the argument, oh, well, if you just sit there and you draft Justin Jefferson, what makes you think they're going to decide to draft Justin Jefferson?
They could have taken Rager instead.
They could have taken, this 2 years ago, they could have taken Xavier Worthy. They could have taken Ladd McConkey. They landed on Keon Coleman. And so I don't know, I would just rather take the if out of it and go get a guy that you think can be a difference maker. And that might be Olave. Hey, it might be Jordan Addison. If you could kind of flash a package to them. That's somebody that I was talking about in the year that they drafted Kincaid. So I'm at about a 5. Here's what has me at 5 instead of maybe 7 or 8. I think Josh Palmer is going to be good once they unlock him and unleash him.
Though.
So now you got 3 weeks probably until he's back to where you need him to be. And without him in the mix, if Kincaid's back, fine. But you're right. Like, who are the players that they're going to lean on? It doesn't feel like Joe Brady trusts Elijah Moore to play on the outside. Like, why do you sign that guy? If all you're going to do is Isaiah McKenzie him. Like, Elijah Moore is a second-round draft pick. Yeah. Like, this guy is, for all of his faults, he's had some really good seasons in the NFL with some lackluster quarterbacks. Put him in the spot. Let him play what Josh Palmer was. Like, he's going to have to in Carolina unless they make a trade. Even if they make a trade, are you going to get Olave in here or whoever else and have them up to speed in time to play that game? Probably not.
No.
I think Moore's going to have to get a game, and you're going to need Keon Coleman to do something. So I'm going to say 5 because I still think Kincaid, if he could stay healthy, means more than, at this point, any receiver that they can add. But at the same time, I definitely am in the camp of you got to go add more talent to the position, which, takes us back to the summer. I don't know if that's what you want to talk about with Brandon Beane, but it's been an interesting week that way.
It is, and I'm with you. I think Palmer's the wild card. If he comes back healthy in, say, 3 weeks, and even 2 weeks after that, down the stretch, he's looking like he did in Atlanta. There's something to that. Shakir is what he is, and he's good. That's not an insult. That's who he is, though. I don't think you're going to get more out of Khalil Shakir than what you see from him. Tyrell Shavers, again, a great story. I like him. I root for him. I think you could cut him tomorrow, and he'll be back on the practice squad.
Right.
And if he's not, then he's not. Keon Coleman's the one, though. This is the guy. I'm almost out on him at this point.
Ooh.
Listen, because you can't trust him.
Right.
You can't trust him, and I don't know that I necessarily blame him. I hear a lot of people say, well, he'd be better if he was a big slot. Well, Dalton Kincaid's a big slot. Khalil Shakir is just a normal slot.
Right.
You knew that before the draft, and you took him. You want him to be a boundary receiver. Is he?
This is the box I was talking about, though.
Huh?
This is the box theory that I have with Joe Brady.
Yes.
He puts these guys in a box. Like, he talked all offseason, every press conference we had, he's got to get Khalil Shakir on the outside more. Where is that? Where is that? Why have you not thrown Keon into the slot just to see what it looks like? The Atlanta Falcons, more than the win, put on an offensive masterclass in how they deployed their weapons.
Yeah.
Bijan in the formation, lining him out wide.
All
Drake
over.
London going to the boundary and the slot interchangeably, and the Bills not having any answers for it. I almost felt like, as much as that was clowning Babbage because of how many yards they gave up, it also kind of like outed Brady for his lack of ability to
It felt
get
like a
creative
preseason
here.
game for the Bills in terms of game plan and preparation. It's almost like they just had a vanilla game plan and they didn't even specifically prepare for Atlanta. So I don't. My thing with Keon is I don't just blame Keon Coleman. I blame the situation. And he had 112 yards against Baltimore. He's had 125 yards in 5 games since.
Right.
This guy is going to give you 3 or 4 games a year. He did it last year. Seattle, he was a beast. He had a good game against Tennessee. He had over 100 yards. He gives you 3 or 4 of those games in a full season. And then he's going to give you 6, 7 games where he's literally not a factor.
Right.
Less than 30 yards receiving. And you see it a lot. He's had less than 30 yards receiving 4 times in 6 games already this year.
You know what?
What's going to change?
One observation I have on Keon that I think could really help elevate his game is some of those gotta have it. Like, he had a 3rd down conversion in the red zone a couple weeks ago where it was only a 4-6 yard gain, but it was an important play. Like, he had to make that catch in the red zone. I think it got him down to inside the 5 yard line. If he was able to get separation more on the outside, he would have so much more run after the catch opportunity that he just doesn't have out there. And to me, to your point, that's not necessarily on Keon. That's more on the organization miscasting him in something
fair.
that, one of the arguments I see is sometimes the Bills feel like they can outsmart the football world with a lot of playing constantly undersized linebackers, constantly in this nickel defense. It's gotten you absolutely abused in some of these games against some of the dominant run games in the NFL. Derrick Henry in week 1, I know it worked out because they won, but in week 6 against the Falcons, they were exposed in that way. And is it crazy? You just extended Terrell Bernard, and I know you got him on this list here. You just extended Terrell Bernard. Taylor Rapp is your number 1 starting safety. When those 2 guys were off the field, your defense was better. How does that happen? Now we're talking about hey, if it's Shaq Thompson, Dorian Williams at linebacker, that's okay because it's better than what you've seen out of Terrell Bernard. I think Bernard and Rapp are in competition for who's been the worst defensive player of the season for the Bills.
It's bad.
It's real bad.
Let's do this. I want to make one more point about Keon Coleman. When I say I'm out on him, I don't mean I'm out cut him or trade him. I'm out meaning if you think this guy is going to be a T. Higgins, if you think this guy is going to be a guy who's going to get you 80 catches for 1,100 yards in a season, you're solely mistaken.
Here's the thing. If he's going to be T. Higgins, Brandon Beane's got to go out and get Jamar Chase. Because T. Higgins isn't T. Higgins without Jamar Chase, which is also my argument on why everybody was go trade for T. Higgins. T. Higgins in this offense, it's a little bit of an unknown what he's going to be. Mm-hmm. And I think T. Higgins would actually help Keon Coleman, but T. Higgins has to be wide receiver 1 and then maybe let Coleman eat a little bit. It'd be better than what they have now.
I want to get to asking you this question. You sat down with Brandon Beane this summer, one-on-one. That was a great interview. Pandering Pat. See that?
Yeah.
Shout out.
Hey, when you pander to me,
from Queens.
No problems. I love it. I love it when you pander to me.
Let me ask you one more Keon Coleman question, and then I'm going to get to my main point. Is Keon Coleman to you Kelvin Benjamin? Because that was the other day I was talking about with Joe from Queens.
No.
He called him that after the Atlanta game. He goes, he's basically Kelvin Benjamin.
Calvin Benjamin was a head case, man.
Yeah, he was an asshole, and he didn't want to give Josh the work, all that stuff. But I'm talking about the skill set, the production, what he could do, what he can't do, what his ceiling might be.
I mean, it is from a production standpoint to your argument that he's like very inconsistent, and it felt like Kelvin Benjamin would give you a good game like every 4 or 5 games. Very similar in that way so far. But I don't know necessarily if I want to put him in that like box yet, that's all he's going to be. He's still a young player. We forget he's only 22.
No, he is young. Yes.
He's immature. I mean, getting benched for another game, start of a game for the second straight year. I mean, there's some issues there, and seeing what McConkey and Worthy have done make it worse. I think in a lot of ways when you think about what could have been here and what they could have had, and that to me is like Brandon's. If you're going to have a complaint that I'll sit here and listen to about Brandon Beane, that to me is one where, like, at times, and I don't know if it's like, how much was Adam Henry involved in that conversation? Like the wide receivers coach. Remember when all those other guys were here and we heard so much, like Gabe Davis, Isaiah McKenzie, Stephon Diggs, about Chad Hall, the wide receiver coach? Have you ever heard anything about Adam Henry?
No.
I don't hear anybody talk about him, from Joe Brady to Sean McDermott. I don't hear anybody talk about him. Who has he developed? I mean, Keon Coleman was his guy. I know that he coached Odell Beckham Jr., but he was also a high-level first-round draft pick from LSU. So we're talking about different tiers of players there. Maybe they need a different wide receiver coach.
Well, I mean, you do see the moment. The frustrating part about Keon Coleman is you do see the flashes. Yeah. You see the moments. You see the games. They don't beat Baltimore without Keon Coleman. Here's what I wanted to ask you about Brandon Beane. All right, so, and by the way, I think his agent, Keon, who's also Tyrell's agent, probably going to hate me if he happens to watch this episode. Well, I know he is. I got a pretty good relationship. I'm being fair, though.
So, by the way, Christian Benford, his agent, by the way, I love Christian Benford. He's one of my favorite Bills players to cover. Every time I walk up to him in the locker room for an interview, guess what he does? Talks. Every single time.
Sure.
I got no bad things to say about Christian Benford. But like I would say to him, through 5 games, it hasn't looked like it did last year.
No, not
so
even
I
close.
put a tweet out about that before the game. And I just said, listen, if I'm going to be a beat reporter, I'm going to point out when players aren't playing to the standard. He just signed a big contract extension. There's an expectation there. There has to be.
Yeah.
So I tweeted his numbers from last year versus this year in terms of like passer rating when targeted, like how many times people are throwing at him this year compared to last year. And his agent replied to me. He's like, with the little like handwriting emoji, like, oh, I'm taking receipts, and like, watch him tonight. He was better. He was better against Atlanta. But that doesn't necessarily take those first 5 games out of it. We're in an age where I feel like some of these agents, and no offense to Christian's agent or Keon's agent, that sometimes I think these guys do their players a disservice with how much they're like getting after it on social media. Like, and I guess like Rosenhaus has done it. He's gone on podcasts. He's done it. But I feel like some of the best agents in the business let all of that kind of stuff, the conversation is going to be what the conversation is.
I meant to tongue in cheek, by the way, with his agent, but I'm being fair, and I've criticized Keon Coleman. I don't think he's consistent enough. I like Tyrell Shavers. The Bills could do better than him, and that's my take. And it is agents, and sometimes it's fathers of players too. Right, but we're not going to rehash that anymore. But here's what I wanted to get to with the Bills and the receivers, and we forget about this list singularly. We can lump it all together because it all comes down to Brandon Beane for me. You look at this receiver room. Keon Coleman, to me, is a 3rd or 4th receiver. He should be your 3rd or 4th best receiver. Shakir's solid. We know what he is.
Which I don't think you spend a high 2nd-round draft pick on a 3rd
I can't
receiver.
Stop thinking about, the Xavier Worthy trade thing. Of course, that's annoying because he goes to Kansas City. I get the philosophy in that, though. You're going to get your receiver, and then you're going to get a 3rd-round pick, and you went and got a defensive tackle who you thought would be really good behind Ed Oliver. I can understand the philosophy of that, okay? So I don't hate that they don't have Xavier Worthy. But I cannot stop thinking about what this offense would look like if they took McConkey, who went 1 pick later, by the way, to the Chargers.
Right.
If the Bills, but for whatever reason, Brandon Beane was fixated on getting a big physical receiver, which is weird because Josh Allen historically has done his best with the quick, separate off the line, Stephon Diggs type of receivers, Cole Beasley type of receivers, John Brown, quick receivers, not the big Gabe Davis. I love Gabe. Gabe's a big play dude. Some of Josh Allen's worst football has been when he's targeted Gabe Davis because he's just forced the ball to him a lot. And you're kind of seeing that with Keon. It feels like almost a wasted rep. Half the throws to Keon Coleman right now this season feel like a waste of a rep right now. It really does, like a waste of a down. But those are the receivers. Elijah Moore, you said it. What's he doing? I don't know. I'm not necessarily blaming him, but what's he doing?
I mean, dude, KJ Hamler, bring him back.
Curtis Samuel might get hurt playing putt-putt right now if we played. But you can't trust him, which sucks because I think he is a really good receiver.
I agree.
But he's got to be on the football field. And as clear as day now, he can't. He has a good little showing, and then he gets hurt again. That's just what he is. Even Kincaid is playing through some shit, man. So you need to make a receiver move. My question to you is, knowing Brandon Beane, do you think it's possible that his ego...
No. Well, I know what you're going to ask, and I'm going to say no.
Okay, let me finish.
I know, but go ahead. Yep.
The ego of the whole WGR bullshit stuff, going at it with Jeremy, going on Pat McAfee's show, being confident in the receivers, giving Curtis Samuel the contract he gave him, giving Keon Coleman where he drafted him, giving Josh Palmer a good contract, extending Shakir, investing money in these guys and drafting and financial resources. That if he goes and he trades for Jacoby Myers, which I saw you're showing, I'm with you. I'm not as much with that either. I agree with you. More of a slot guy. Olave would be the guy, or the other guy from New Orleans, or there's a couple others too. But even if that's there for him, do you think there's a chance that he just doesn't want to? He doesn't want to look bad, perception-wise, if he goes and trades for a big-time receiver, because you can go back and keep the receipts and play the clips and all that shit from 6 months ago. I feel like it would be a bad look for him if he did. I think it's a move he should make, but I wonder if pride, ego, whatever term you want to use.
So you're arguing that it would be a bad look if he made a trade for a receiver?
I'm arguing that it would be perceived that he did a bad job with the wide receiver room if he goes and he makes a trade.
I think
because injuries aren't that much of a factor with this room.
I think part of it is stepping away from all of the hullabaloo of that moment. Mm-hmm. He has always been upfront about the fact that roster building never ends, right? Just because he comes into the season with this group of 5 doesn't mean that that's the group of 5 that he's going to end the year with, right? So I think part of it is the evaluation. You go out and you sign Elijah Moore, who had 900 receiving yards last year, and you bring him in, and the only thing Brady wants to do with him is do jet sweeps, and can't even do that. He fumbles the ball. So maybe you think, okay, this is a guy that we got at a very good number that just isn't going to move the needle for us. We continue to not be able to trust Curtis Samuel. Josh Palmer's out. I'm going to do the best thing for this team, which he's always made sure to say. Now, if they don't make a trade for a wide receiver, I think that would look worse than what you're saying, because there's an obvious need for depth. It's not necessarily if they're whole, right? If they have all these guys and they're playing, that's fine. But we saw what happens if one of these guys is out, what it means for them. And I would be interested to see if Curtis or if Khalil Shakir gets injured, would that be the jump start to allow Keon to go inside? And then if Keon goes inside, what do you do with Khalil when he comes back? If he's out for, say, 5 to 6 weeks or something like that, they'd be forced to play him on the outside, I think, a little bit more if it's working. Kind of like last year when Keon was the odd man out when he came back from injury and just really wasn't part of the offense. So you're asking me, will they trade for a wide receiver? I think they have to, just because Palmer now, Moore is an undersized guy, and then especially Curtis Samuel, they can't trust these guys to stay healthy. And even Khalil, for as tough as he is, he gets banged up every year, it feels like.
Yeah. The salary cap and the financial ramifications of trades more than most fans do, obviously. It's easy to say they need to trade for this, they need to trade that, they need a corner, they need a safety, they need a receiver. If you're prioritizing and realistically you land on the Bills can make one move, where are you going? Then you don't have to necessarily give me the player, but where if Brandon Beane has one move in him, because the cap situation is really bad. Now, can they create some room? Sure, they could. But if there's room to make one move right now, where do you think they're going? I don't think it's going to be receiver if they only got room for one move. I think it should be receiver. I don't think it's going to be receiver, though.
I think Milano's injury not being season-ending or IR worthy probably takes linebacker out of it for me.
Yes,
Because
agreed.
I think they trust Shaq. I think Dorian when he's available, and then you got Bernard too. So you got 4 guys that you trust. That's a little bit different than a couple years ago when they were getting AJ Klein off the couch. Safeties, it's interesting to me because, like, yeah, do they need one? I saw Ben Solak's tweet about, like, watching the tape back and saying, go trade for this position.
Little hyperbole, though. Some of that tweet. I mean, not that he was wrong.
I thought Jordan Poyer looked fine. Not that you could count on him for an extended period, but we haven't even seen what Jordan Hancock looks like out there yet. Like, why not put I think before the deadline, like starting in Carolina, you got to go Hancock Bishop just to see what it looks like.
Is there any chance that happens? Let me ask you that. In your mind, I've been wanting that.
I think the pressure is going to get ratcheted up on Sean about that, starting on that Wednesday, like media availability. Now, do I think Rapp gets one more opportunity? Probably, because and to me, like, the one thing that I will say about Sean too is his big thing is, like, every job is earned. Like, there's a competition for every job. Well, if that's the case, how has Taylor Rapp not lost his job based on the first 6 weeks? I can't comprehend that unless you're seeing something in practice that you just don't trust Hancock yet.
Well, you look at this past game. I think Bishop went out briefly, and it was Poyer who came in.
Yeah.
It was not Jordan Hancock, and it's just, I don't know what it is. I guess he's a rookie, he's a safety, and I know how much
They
Sean.
just don't trust young guys when it comes to that
bothers
position.
me because maybe more than anything else, like, I like Jordan Poyer, but there's no athleticism there.
Right.
He's Taylor Rapp, but just maybe he's better at tackling.
So
That's what it is.
I was talking to, I don't know if you ever talked to him, but there's this really great Bills fan. His name is Mark, but he goes by Vicious Sid on social media.
No, I don't know who that is.
Shout out to him if he's watching. Very, really smart Bills fan. And I often talk about conversation. So I want to give him a little bit of the credit on this, but I agree with it. It's something that I've felt subconsciously for a couple weeks, months, maybe even going back to last year. I wonder if there's any thought inside the building about potentially making Taron Johnson a safety at some point. Because I don't know if his future is at slot corner as he gets older. Like, I think when we've seen Cam Lewis in that role, you can make an argument that he's looked as good, if not better than him in that spot. And to me, Taron Johnson, look at the arc here. Where was Micah Hyde before he came to Buffalo? Where was he?
Green Bay?
Green Bay.
Yeah.
What did he play in Green Bay?
He was kind of
He's a slot corner.
Yeah, he's a slot
corner.
Yeah.
And so he played safety too. He played multiple positions. But I just wonder long term if the football IQ that Taron Johnson brings, we're middle of the season. I don't think you're going to transition Taron to safety right now. But I do think if the Bills can't come up with an answer at safety this year at some point, if they don't give a lot of thought to Taron Johnson, and if it's not Cam Lewis, maybe drafting a slot corner, somebody you can get probably in the second, third, fourth round, somebody that you really like, and kind of go from there. Just an idea, but to your point, I don't know what the deal is with Hancock. They don't play young guys. It was Bishop last year. He missed some time, and they refused to put him back in the lineup.
Well, maybe there was something to that because I feel like you're letting Cole Bishop escape some of the smoke here because it's all about Taylor Rapp.
I think Rapp has
Cole
been
Bishop's
that
much
bad.
better. Well, I agree with you. I think Rapp has been the 1B. To me, there's 2 guys on the defense that have just been utterly disappointing to me this year, and Trey White's not one of them because I didn't have expectations.
You knew.
I think what you see from Trey White is what he was last year. I mean, did you not watch him play with the Rams? Not you, everybody. Did you not watch him play with the Ravens? He's what he is. It's Taylor Rapp, and it's Terrell Bernard. I'm telling you, I think he has been awful.
I agree.
This season. He's a big play machine. He had that interception against Tua in the Miami game. He won the Ravens playoff game last year. He does that for you. He gets those big plays. But if he ain't getting those big plays, he's hurting you. Right. I've made an argument. It's a stupid argument because it's never going to happen in a million years. But I said if everybody's healthy, I'm ready to see Shaq Thompson and Matt Milano out there.
Yeah, I agree.
Are you going to bench Terrell Bernard, who's
He's your captain?
He's one of 2 captains on the team after he just signed an extension. I think contracts and I think draft status matter. And I think that's why this team will stay with somebody like Cole Bishop longer. Because if it was up to me, Jordan Poyer would be my in-the-box safety, and Jordan Hancock would be my free safety against Carolina next week. Both the safeties.
What's funny is I actually think Hancock can play that role. It's not about that. He's very versatile. But as a tackler, Hancock at 22, 23, whatever he is, I'd like that in the box. Like, I think he would bring some physicality. I think that his recognition, he's faster. He's more willing tackler. I don't want to say Cole Bishop isn't a willing tackler. He is. But his read and react, it leaves a lot to be desired. And I do think there's a level of spoiledness that the Bills Mafia has gone through, having all pro caliber play at that position over the last 7-8 years.
Just wait till the next quarterback comes right now.
Dude, that's
after Josh.
rough.
That's one of the last things I want to get to.
All right, what do we got here? Hang on a second. Hang on. 50 minutes. There's no way we're getting out under an hour.
I am going to make you stay a minute later on purpose.
We're going over an hour.
I'll create, of course, by a minute, though. Only by a minute. The Trey White thing. When I told you if I had to make one trade, it's going to be corner, because I don't think you could survive a season with Trey White. Now, if you knew Max Harrison's going to play later in the season, sure. Max Harrison hasn't played a padded practice for the Bills. You think Sean McDermott, who won't play Jordan Hancock right now, you think he wants to put Max Harrison out there?
He better. I was talking to somebody about this today. I don't care. I don't see it. Put him out there. And I agree with you.
Is his deadline Wednesday? If that practice window doesn't open after the bye, can you say, well, I'm not counting?
Oh, no, it's opening. He wouldn't have said that. In my opinion, my prediction is that he is practicing next week.
Okay.
But I also think they open it conveniently next week because they don't have to bring him back till after the Kansas City game. Because I think that would be tough to ask him to play in that game.
You don't want Tranavell debut against the Chiefs.
I mean, Xavier Worthy, Rasheed Rice. It wouldn't hurt to have some speed and athleticism out there.
And Dorian Strong made his debut against Lamar Jackson.
So we'll see. Like, I'm not ruling anything out. And by the way, it does. But they weren't playing him even before. Like, when I think that they should have maybe stayed with him.
That game he got hurt was the Saints game. They were rotating series. Sean said that he wanted to get Dorian some reps.
Right.
I think if he doesn't get hurt, I think he's the starter right now. I think Trey White's out. But Dorian Strong's hurt, and I don't want to speculate.
So let me just say one thing on Trey real quick. And I've been critical of him, as I think he should be, if you're being honest about him, watching him play. There's been a lot more good than I thought was going to be in play when they signed him. Like, there's been moments where I feel like he's been all right. Like, tackles for losses. That pass breakup in that game against Atlanta, that was a massive play, like a heady football play. I still think, like, having him as a depth option, somebody you got to throw out there if there's an injury, it's not the worst thing in the world to have him as somebody.
He's not a disaster.
And he's getting, like, he wasn't starting for Baltimore. He started for the Rams, but it was such a bad situation. Like, that's in the hindsight. But like, if we're talking about like what Trey White could potentially mean to this team over the course of the season, I don't want to downplay that. Like, I think that there's a role for him, and I think it's good. But I think you got to get Hairston to 100% of the snaps as soon as possible, especially considering that window of games after Kansas City. You have some opponents where I feel like you can build something there. Tampa Bay is a lot better than anybody expected. They're going to be a really tough game, but that's at home. I like that matchup. They got some older receivers. Igbuka's hurt right now, so we'll see where he's at. He's a freak. I mean, my son drafted him on his this is his first year he's playing fantasy football, and he got Emeka Igbuka and Baker Mayfield in his MVP season.
He's crushing it. MVP right now.
I know, he's crushing it. So, no. Anyway.
I think they need to get a corner. I think they need to get a veteran corner. I don't think you can count on Max Harrison.
There's a couple out there.
Yeah.
I wonder what Stephon Gilmore's doing. I wonder what, where the health eval is on Asante Samuel Jr.
Do you start to wonder, though, guys like Gilmore, guys like Justin Simmons, when they're out there that long.
The Simmons thing is weird.
It's like, well, why?
Unless he's specifically waiting for a specific opportunity.
Well, the safety play cannot be any worse for the Buffalo Bills.
So maybe Brandon Beane at some point, like maybe it's not a trade. It's like calling Justin Simmons saying, hey, man, we need you to get to like the baseline level of average safety play. Can you come in and do that? And he's a veteran player, probably can figure it out. But, I mean, they flirted with this idea, or the fan base has flirted with this idea. There's a reason why Justin Simmons has never been the guy that they've brought in. So maybe it's just not the right match. I don't know.
Holding Matt here hostage just for a few more minutes at Cheektowaga Country Club on Genesee Street. Again, if you've never been there, I'm going to be honest with you. I never heard of this place until 2 weeks ago. I was sleeping on it. It's only been open since May, so this place is actually it's almost brand new. It's less than 6 months old, but I had never heard of this place. I'm glad I did now because This is really cool, man. Anyway, let's talk about Josh Allen. Not about how he's playing on the field. That goes without saying. He's going to be fine. He's freaking the MVP.
The ESPN interview?
Are you surprised? Yes. That interview itself, I didn't have an issue with it. Some others do.
I didn't have an issue with it.
I have zero issue with it. Great. He's growing up. He's getting mature. Are you the same person that you were? Do you care about your job any less now than you did 6 years ago because your kids are getting older and things like that and you can do more stuff with them? No, of course you don't. I think that's stupid to even assume that his passion isn't there. That's ridiculous. But that aside, what I don't like is he looks gloomy. He looked gloomy on the bench. He looked annoyed, defeated. I remember going back to that Jets game, the opener 2 years ago, where he just looked like he hated everything that was going on in his life and around him in the world in that Jets game. He kept going on the bench and just sulking. Sometimes the helmet would be up, like halfway up there. I saw that Josh Allen. I also saw Josh Allen was turning the ball over lately, which, by the way, back to your original point, do you know Josh Allen doesn't have a turnover this year when Dalton Kincaid's on the field? Every turnover he has is when he has not been on the field. Yeah. So, but anyway, his temperament. I'm not talking about his attitude towards life. His attitude towards life is fine. Good for him. He's married. He was married against the Ravens when he went 261 yards in the fourth quarter.
Right.
He was in love and engaged last year when he was going nuclear week after week and winning MVPs. But I am talking about his temperament. It looked to me like he's a guy who doesn't trust who's out there with them. It looked like he was, I don't know. Maybe you saw it differently. I just saw a quarterback that looked really annoyed.
But I think it probably was just with their collective inability to find answers more than what you're alluding to. Because in the postgame locker room, he goes and does his press conference, comes back in. Right before we're about to all walk out, I didn't even talk about this on my show. I think Joe B might have written about it a little bit in his story. Bouchel, Trubisky, Allen, who usually kind of sit after games, especially losses. Brady was there too. Brady's never in the post-game locker room like that when media is in there. And they were just in a kind of like having a come to Jesus conversation, it looked like. Now, we weren't listening and couldn't hear what it was happening, but they were doing a post-mortem on what just happened. And so I think it's more about to have a game like that where drive after drive after drive, you can't figure out the answer. Like, he is an ultimate chess player, right? The Catan is one thing, but he talked about this. Like, he plays chess on his phone. Like, he's very cerebral. I think that was a game against a foe in Jeff Ulbrich, who's had his number time in and time out.
That's a good point.
I think it just comes to a point where, what do I got to do to really have a good game against this guy? Why are we not planning for this properly? Why are we not adjusting? Why don't we have answers? Because he's so used to having answers. He says it in his press conference every week. We're going to have answers for what they're trying to do. If they do this, we're going to do that. If they do this, we're going to do that. They did this, this, and this, and they had no answers for any of it.
It's a really good reason to be pissed off, too. Yeah. That's a valid point. I just cannot get behind the thought that because his life has changed off the field.
It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
It's really, to be honest. It's just terrible. Like the fire doesn't burn anymore. Like he's like, remember Major League 2, Charlie Sheen, when he was, the first one he was Wild Thing, he was second one he was corporate and wearing the suits. He went through a fastball. Is that Josh Allen now or something? It's just stupid. But anyway, all right. Last thing I wanted to say. Actually, two things with the Brandon Beane stuff. Let's just say the season doesn't turn around. I think it's going to, and we'll get to that last. But if it doesn't, you see the Twitter handles all the time. McDummy, McClappy, fire Sean, this and that, blah, 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 blah. It's not happening. He's not getting fired. But is he getting too much heat, and is Brandon Beane not getting enough heat? Because let's go back and look at these extensions a year ago. How does Terrell Bernard's extension look right now? I would do Benford over again in a heartbeat because I still think he's a great corner. And
that was a really good value. Yeah,
it was a great value.
Bernard's value was decent.
But you got Shakir when you could have possibly Keon playing us out. Like you said, you got Cook looks like a bargain, actually. And that looked like the one he didn't want to do, but he kind of got pigeonholed into having to do it. But some of these contracts, the receiver contracts, Samuel and Palmer, if Palmer doesn't work out, if he can't get on the field and produce, a lot of bad contracts out there, man. A lot of bad decisions. And we won't even talk because we're out of time, and you're gonna get mad at me in 5 minutes.
I'm not mad at you. Let's go. I said 95 minutes when we
got
out here.
95 minutes, man. But the draft, the top of the draft, like it's not helping this football team right now. Now, Max Harrison, that's not his fault. You can't control that. TJ Sanders, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I still like him. Lousy start to his rookie season, but so what? I'm not out on him. He could be fine. Landon Jackson, don't get me started on that pick. I never liked it from the beginning. Maybe I'll be wrong in a year or two. Anyway, those day 1, day 2 picks, Keon last year, Bishop, Dwayne Carter. I mean, it sucks he got hurt, but what was he going to be, the 5th defensive tackle this year anyway?
When Ogunjobi comes back, I don't think he's even on the roster.
Exactly.
That's tough.
The drafting at the top has not been great over these last few years. So you combine that with the extensions and some of the decisions. Maybe like Sean's, he believes in Taylor Rapp more than anyone else on this earth. Brandon Beane believes in his core players maybe too much. I don't know, but I guess my long-winded question to you is Brandon Beane going to feel the heat that Sean McDermott is definitely going to feel this offseason if things don't change?
Like, don't make the playoffs or have an early exit? Like,
I'll give you the get out in the first round. They lose in the wild card round or even in the divisional round. Because last year they made it to the championship, so a divisional round would be a step back this year.
So I think there's definitely possibility that seats get hot if they're playing in the wild card round, based on how this season kind of set up in the beginning.
Yes.
So if they don't win the 1 seed, knowing what's going on in Kansas City with a 3-3 start and Baltimore sitting here at 1-5, if you're Terry Pagula and you're being honest about this situation, it's like, wait a second, you got the reigning MVP. You spent all these resources on the defense, and the defense has been like, all these questions are popping up, and you're telling me you don't win the 1 seed? Like, who wins the 1 seed? Like, is it the Pittsburgh Steelers who are sitting here right now who are winning, about to go to 5-1 or whatever the heck they're going to be? There's going to be issues just there, right? I think that's what would kickstart at least a conversation about all of this. And like, is this the plan moving forward? I still don't know what could transpire. I think they would have to actually miss the playoffs to where an actual change was made.
I don't think a change is coming.
Right. And so...
Well, I take that back.
And I also think that, like, it's hard. Like, I get it. You want like, immediate impact, right? Baltimore is the same tier as the Bills.
Yeah.
And Malachi Starks is what everybody wanted. And everybody made it out like, oh, this guy is like he's going to be an instant starter. Of course the Ravens get him and the Bills don't, blah, blah, blah. He's been one of the worst safeties in football.
Yeah, I agree.
And so, like...
And
there is none of that happening right now. And to be honest with you, on Sanders, the only eval on TJ Sanders that matters this year is, can he give you 3 to 4 to 6 third down pass rush snaps against Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson that potentially are impactful? That's what he was drafted for.
Yes.
Let's not put him in a box that they didn't. They drafted him just for that.
Agreed.
To put him on the field with Ed Oliver before they drafted Ogunjobi, before Deion Walker was a hit. Are we not giving Brandon Beane credit for finding Deion Walker in the 4th round, who looks like one of the best defensive linemen in this rookie class?
It's crazy.
We got to give him that credit, right?
Well, that's what he does, though. Those day 3 gems. Every year he.
But if Dalton Kincaid goes on to go for 1,208 touchdowns this year, does that like tip the scales? Like, I get it. Like, it's not always going to be perfect, and I don't want to sit here and act like a Brandon Beane stan. I think he's done a really good job, and I think the reasoning for a lot of the picks and why he did it, there's reasoning there for why he did a lot of this. The Kyrie Elam thing is something that he's going to have to wear for years and years and years. And now the Harrison thing gives you a level of PTSD over all of it. But if Harrison can come back and find a way to contribute, Osiris Torrance has been an absolutely massive piece to this offensive line, which has been a big part of their identity. A lot of things get cast aside when we want to focus on the things that have been misses, quote unquote.
Sure.
And I think that that's an unfair way to do it when there have been quite a bit of hits as well in a league where a lot of, for all the bells and whistles that are made for the way that the Ravens run their business, they just traded a 1st round edge rusher. Yeah. Odafe Owe. They sent him to San Francisco because he didn't even materialize. You're always hyper-focused on what's going on with your own team, and I think it's hard to see the landscape across the rest of the league. who is the team that's really hitting on all these guys right now? Kansas City? Detroit? Well, Detroit, a lot of their hits were when they were drafting in the beginning of the round.
Yeah.
And that's another
fair.
piece of it, too.
That's
anyway,
fair, too.
I don't want to, act like, everybody's like, oh, Parrino's just, carrying water for Brandon Beane. I'm critical of the things that deserve criticism, but I also don't like when people downplay the really good parts of his tenure to, over-amplify the things that you construe as negative.
And it's very fair. And look, let's not lose sight that this is a team that year after year after year is in the mix. And
yeah.
A lot of teams don't do that. A lot of teams have a 1 or 2, 3 year run, and then they fade away. And the Bills, to their credit, have not done that. Last thing, too, by the way, you said Max Harrison and PTSD. Yes, because I also start thinking Amos was a guy that a lot of people mocked in the Bills. He looks really good for Washington. And Will Johnson with Arizona.
That's
come on, those were 2 corners that were very much talked about, and those guys look like studs right now. So Max has got to get on the field, and he's got to look good when he does get on the field, because the whole Kyrie Elam thing, like you said, the nightmare shit. Which, speaking of way, last thing here.
If he was truly the Kyrie Elam storyline, he would come in and play against the Chiefs and get a pick. Remember when his rookie year had the pick against the Chiefs?
Yep.
Everybody was like, oh, man, he's going to be great. And actually, that one play, it literally gave life to the Kyrie Elam stands for years.
I remember that. All right, so listen, we're here. The vibes are good here at Cheektowaga Country Club. Let's end this with some good vibes to kind of match the setting here. Give people, besides Josh Allen, just he's gonna play better.
Dude, you got 1,600 watching on a Thursday night, man. Shout out to everybody watching
big shout
during
out.
Thursday night football, man. Talking Buffalo,
Let's
dude.
go. But I want you to give people a reason for optimism beyond just the fact that Josh Allen's not going to keep playing like he did. Give me.
I got one thing that I saw 2 days ago.
Don't blame me for being late on the show. Blame him. Go ahead.
Did you see that Bomani Jones clip that's been making its way around?
But I saw it, but I didn't listen to it.
Not even Nick Wright. Nick Wright's kind of his own compartment.
What
Bomani Jones said he's never seen anybody in sports, or maybe football, maybe I'm paraphrasing incorrectly, that people glorify or lift up more than Josh Allen. Dude, if I'm anybody close to Josh Allen, I'm sending him that clip and letting him see what people are kind of saying. The Nick Wright one's always easy because he's always he's got that whole shtick with Patrick Mahomes. But dude, he's coming off of an MVP season that I would say a bigger majority says that he wasn't deserving of.
Crazy.
Crazy. I agree. And a lot of people think that maybe think I'm a Josh Allen homer or something like that. I don't have a relationship with Josh. We're very friendly. We're cordial to each other. I don't have any hats in the ring, right? Irons in the fire. What he did last year with his supporting cast was more impressive than what anybody else did in the league with what they had at their disposal.
100%.
Derrick Henry's impact on Lamar Jackson after he had the 24 touchdowns the year before. How do you not bake that in? That's an old story. But I think you're going to see sicko Josh the next couple weeks. I think he's going to hear some of the noise. He's going to have to answer the questions next week. You saw the despondent Josh. When you see the despondent Josh on the sidelines, like you mentioned, what usually transpires after that? Kincaid's going to be back. He's dealing with an oblique. I'm sure that'll be fine by at the latest the Kansas City Chiefs game. I think that they get back to basics. I think Joe Brady's going to want to answer a lot of questions. So I think there's plenty of reason for hope. I also don't think we've seen the Bills' defense. We haven't talked about Michael Hoyt on this show. He's turned into a mythical creature. This unicorn that's going to somehow magically... It's
not Reggie White's coming
but it's not that. It's not that. What I think Hoyt allows you to do is play Bosa at the snap count that you're comfortable with, 40 to 50% a game.
Sure.
Let him be really impactful as a pass rusher. Move Hoyt around and have him do multiple things. Ogunjobi's going to come back and play the Sanders role, the backup to Oliver. Deion Walker goes back to being an absolute unicorn as a backup. And now this defensive line is what you really built it to be. And I think that's going to have an impact on everybody else in the back seven, or at least you hope. And I think Sean McDermott's going to have. He talked about asking hard questions, getting under the hood. You better see under that hood that Taylor Rapp should be on the sideline, because if you don't, I just don't think that you're doing a honest self-evaluation. Or maybe you sit Taylor Rapp down over the next week and say, your job's on the line. You got to have those hard conversations and say, listen, man, it hasn't been up to standard. We need more. We've seen better than this from you. It needs to be better
before.
Yes.
He has. He's not an all-pro safety, but, I mean, his play's been acceptable.
His really good last year was really good.
Sure.
And so you got to get back to that. And if you can't, you got to give an opportunity to the young players.
I want to go back to your Josh point.
Baby. Hour and 10. We're going to make 95. We're going to make 95. I feel it.
We're not. 5 more minutes tops. Your Josh point, I agree with you. I think a fire's going to be lit. I think he's pissed off. You're going to see angry Josh out there. Between that, like you said, the Bomani Jones comment, people saying that he doesn't care as much anymore because he's married, things like that.
Oh, yeah. That's
going to
table.
That'll get to him, and he will.
I do have a side Josh comment, though.
Okay.
I did not like his, and it was in the moment, so I'm not going to completely judge him on it. I didn't like when he said after the opener, like, kind of took Bills fans to task for leaving early. Like,
yeah. I agree.
It just didn't sit right with me because of everybody, he knows, he has his finger on the pulse of the people.
Yeah.
Right? And to me, that just was like, hey, man, it was a Sunday night game. People got to work on Monday morning,
sure.
Okay? And if you think that the game's out of hand and you can get a head start and get an extra 2 hours of sleep, I don't blame anybody for doing that.
Yeah.
And, like, to me, that was a little bit very uncharacteristic of Josh.
It was annoying. Just like his bad pizza takes are annoying, too.
What's his pizza take?
That one in West Seneca, he says is the best wet pizza in
Goodfellas?
Huh?
Goodfellas?
No, it's, oh, God, I can't even think of it. It's not even in the top 100.
It's forgettable.
It's that, well, I guess it is forgettable.
Well, dude, you do your shows from Imperial, which is arguably the best. Okay, by the way, I agree, Imperial. If people are coming to town what's the Buffalo pizza to go to, I always say Imperial. But there is a contender that I feel like nobody knows enough about, and it's out of your realm, Matina's. But you got to go to the one on Sheridan. It is an elite buffalo pie. No, Sheridan there is one in Tonawanda on Delaware, but don't go to that one. Even though I think that's the original, go to it's like the Sheridan Duffs. Like, you got to go to Sheridan Duffs. You can't go to the Niagara or the Transit.
Or the Orchard Park Duffs.
No, you can't.
I live 5 minutes from
there. No, don't do it. Don't do it.
It's like taking a bath in their sauce.
Matina's on Sheridan in Williamsville. It's out by, like, Young's and Sheridan, over by that Wegmans, kind of. Have that pizza. I want the review. Give me the juice.
I'm going to start doing a lot more reviews.
It's a great pie.
But here was my reason for optimism, not beyond Josh. I think this week is going to sit horribly with Sean McDermott, and I think something's going to get done about the jobs that the coordinators have done. We talked about this at the beginning of the show. Bobby Babish was every bit as bad in that first half as Joe Brady was for the game, and Joe Brady was not good. Put it this way, you're not going to see Elijah Moore have an end around on 3rd and 1 again this season. I'm confident in that. I think you're going to start to see James Cook be more of a weapon in the passing game. They're going to run the ball more effectively. Ray Davis, we didn't mention him the whole show. You're going to start to see more of that. Getting the running backs involved in the passing game. It's been absent. Literally. James Cook's got 12 catches. They didn't even have 100 yards receiving this season. Mm-hmm. Ty Johnson's got 2 catches for 7 yards. Ray Davis, finally, I thought he should have gotten cut a couple times already this season.
It's so tough to be a coordinator in this league because at the same time I'm arguing for James Cook to be more involved in the passing game. If he got like 7 or 8 targets in a game and had a big drop, I'd be like, man, that might be a little bit too much.
Did you learn by now?
Because you remember a couple years ago, like, he did have a couple issues with drops, but it's always like a finicky thing. It's hard too. Like, when you're a sustained success, this is something that we don't talk enough about probably, in fairness to Joe and Sean and Bobby. When you have a sustained amount of success like this, and you have basically the same personnel, the same philosophy, the same quarterback, all of this, there's so much tape on you. There's so many teams spend their offseason planning for the Bills. Like, I'm sure the Falcons had this circled on their calendar, and Jeff's experience with them going up against them when he was in New York. That's tough, and you're going to get everybody's best shot, and you're going to get the best game plan. It's hard, but, like, you're going to have to reinvent yourselves, and I don't think that Joe Brady has done enough from a creative standpoint. Like I mentioned at the start of the show, that's where I'm really going to be evaluating him over the next couple of weeks.
This Carolina game coming off the bye suddenly seems a lot bigger,
got some
doesn't
juice,
it?
and he's got
the Bills have lost 2 in a row, so it's important to get that W because you got Kansas City after that.
Yep.
Also, B, Carolina Panthers are not the pushover that a lot of people thought they were going to be. They run the football and they stop the run.
You don't think Joe Brady wants to go put it on them after they fired him a couple years ago? I know Matt Rule's not there anymore, but still, there's a lot in this game. There's a lot that's going to be built up to this game, and they're good off the bye under McDermott. So, man, I mean, 90 minutes.
I know. We're not going to.
Out here at Cheektowaga Country Club.
We did get to 75 minutes, so we'll leave it.
That's great.
At 75.
Dude, you had 1,700 almost watching the whole time. That's impressive.
That is really cool, man. Big shout out to everybody watching this. Big shout out, by the way, again, Cheektowaga Country Club. Place is really cool, man. I can't stress it enough. Get out here, check it out, bring a date, bring your kids. I've said this. I don't think this is a place you come to, like, every week. But, like, if you and I came here every couple weeks, grabbed a couple beers, play some video games again, shit just brings me back, man.
I think it depends on who you are. Like, I think if you're like, this would be a really cool spot if you just were looking for, like, a chill weekday night. If you're like, if you got a group of college kids, high school kids, like, whatever the case may be, this could be a cool spot. And if you got kids, like, anywhere from 5 to 15, you want to bring them in with a group of their, like, my daughter just came here for a birthday party too, so they do a little bit of everything.
There's a game here. I was hoping to find it on the camera. I can't see it though. I think so. The owner, Mark, shout out to him, man. He's one of 2 owners. Really cool guy. He showed me this game. You know the game charades?
Yeah.
It's called Death Charades. You ever hear of it?
No.
So the back of the card is ways that you die. Sounds pretty freaking morbid, doesn't it?
Damn, bro.
You got to act it out.
We're going to end this. We're going to end this one a real down note here,
Forget about just the Bills doom and gloom. But he said there was a group here, and he was laughing at. They were having fun because they were all acting out ways to die. But I was like, Jesus, it's kind of morbid, but also does sound like kind of fun to play. I never heard of that game or saw it in my life, but I seen it laying around here on one of the tables here. Anyway, all right, on that note, let's get out of here. Big shout out, Cheektowaga Country Club. Big shout out to everybody on the live who watching, everyone who's going to listen to this or watch this sometime on Friday. Big shout out to my guy, Matt Parrino, appearance number 20, by the way.
Did you do the numbers?
Podcast.
Nice.
Yeah.
On the pink couch, man.
On the pink couch.
The big 20 on the pink couch. I love it.
With the sweet-ass little disco ball here. Cheektowaga Country Club. Thank you, everybody. Have a good weekend, and I will talk to you Sunday night.